So on the count of three, here we go.
They used to call me
Easy D, Easy D, Easy D. And this is 5 easy questions. 5 easy questions.
Well, I have something to add to that.
They used to call me Easy D, Easy D, Easy D.
This is Dan Easy D Dorman. 5 easy questions. Today's going to be a great interview. I've just burnt the first 20 minutes of my Zoom just talking. And so it was, okay, we got to take this to the stage, as my boy George would say. I met this person at an AI hip hop symposium. Now, that all by itself was an interesting reason to go. I found out that her and her company put the event forward. Now it's like, oh, well, that's cool. I don't know how the things were merged, and maybe we'll talk about it, maybe not. But then I found out that her and her partner, and we'll get into if she has more than one, because I really don't know, but she's a venture capitalist. And I don't know anything about venture capitalism other than what I learned from Tony Stark and CNBC and Fox Business. And yes, I watch Fox. Not all the time, but I do. So without further ado, here is Monica Poole Knox from Good Trouble Ventures.
Hey, here we are. Hello, Easy D. Nice to see you. Nice to be here to chat with you today.
The pleasure is going to be all mine because I'm going to learn far more from this conversation today than I certainly never thought I would, because like a lot of folks, and this is going to go into multi-part question. Oh, let me warn you. I'm OCD, so when it's 5 easy questions, it ain't 6. So how I get around that is make a whole lot of multi-question answers.
I already knew that's where you were going. I'm sure.
Yeah, because of what you do, I'm sure you got a spot. You gotta, get a sense of the person. So I get that. So here's the multi-part question.
Okay.
What is a venture capitalist?
That is so funny because in your introduction, when you said I was a venture capitalist, I said, oh my goodness, should I be offended? Thought of myself as a venture capitalist, but I absolutely am.
Okay.
So, a person who does venture capital, or I should say venture capital funds, are in the business of, sometimes they raise money, sometimes they use their own money, of finding outstanding founders who are building fantastic companies, and invest in that founder and their team and their companies to help them scale faster. So it's kind of a newer concept as it relates to just business in general. I think, traditionally businesses, if you look back into, the 20s and the 30s, you wanted to start a business, you started a business. And from the profits of that business, you reinvested the business and you built the business. It takes longer to do that way, but was kind of the traditional way that you would start a business. And of course, if your family had money or had access to money, you might be able to do something a little bit faster. But it was very individual, very much about what you yourself could drive in terms of your profits and revenues for the company, in terms of the success of your company. But what a venture capital fund does is it accelerates that growth instead of that company having to, kind of figure out where to go get money to either hire employees with skill sets that they need, or whether if they're in manufacturing, they may need to purchase a particular set of machinery. They may need marketing dollars to advertise their business. Instead of them having to wait until they raise the money where they have enough to do that, what a venture capital fund does is infuses the money into the organization for a particular return. So they are an investor, simply as an investor. It's saying, hey, we're going to give you some funds so you don't have to worry about that. We believe in you, we trust you, and from that, build your business, and we're your partner, your financial partner along the way. Now, our fund is a little bit different because we provide both financial capital and what we call strategic capital. So we can talk a little bit more about that.
Oh, and actually, I'm covering my notes because it looks like you're reading them now. I was going to ask what separates good trouble ventures from the others.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Let's see. How much time is that?
I will send you links all day, homegirl.
No, all kidding aside, I mean, look, the premise of venture capital that I laid out is going to be fairly similar across, any venture fund. Um, and I should have shared also that venture capital tends to invest in earlier stage companies, whereas private equity funds tends to invest in later stage companies. So that's the differentiation between the two, because I hear that question quite a bit. Certainly there are exceptions, but that's generally the case. That is the case with Good Trouble Ventures as well. We invest in early stage companies. So these are companies that we consider pre-seed, seed, or Series A. That means they're typically within their first, 3, 4 years of being a company. So they're just getting started. Sometimes they've made a little bit of money, what we call post revenue. Sometimes they're pre revenue. Sometimes they haven't yet turned a dollar. We invest at the intersection of tech, so emerging tech, meaning AI, all forms of AI, Web3, blockchain, any type of emerging tech, and entertainment. And by entertainment, we mean music, film, media, sports, gaming, and creator economy. It also could be, did I miss one? Music, film, media, sports, gaming, creator economy. I think I got them all. So it can be any form of entertainment is really what we're investing in. And one of the things that we always try to do is first find outstanding founders. I always thought before I got into venture capital, and I can talk a little bit about what I did prior to this, um, you really had to be this fantastic just finance person, like just the numbers, just the numbers. And some venture funds run their funds that way. But with all of the research and all the studies that we've seen, and quite frankly, even people who've been in venture for a very long period of time, experience will show that even if you have a fantastic business idea, if you don't have the right founder, you don't have the right talent, you don't have the right team that founder might attract and retain, you're going to have a hard time building a successful business. You can even have a mediocre idea, but if you have a founder who is willing to learn and to pivot their initial assumptions based on new information, then they can build a successful business. It's very interesting to see when we talk about companies like a Twitter or like Twitch or other companies that we consider in this kind of media slash entertainment space, um, kind of the whole premise of their company. It started out as one thing, like if you think about Twitch, which is a very successful video streaming company today, they started out as what was called Justin TV, which was the name of the founder. That business initially was just all about, hey, watch me go about my day, and watch me play video and watch me do certain things. But that business, evolved over time. And so what happened there is that the founder understood that their initial concept, were they in love with it, they may be missing a particular part of the market if they didn't make some type of adjustments. And so Twitch is what we know as today, but it didn't start off today. To me, that's a reflection of a few things. It's recognizing a business opportunity and the inflection point, like what's going on in industry where, people are um, drawn or interested in certain things. You're noticing those trends. And it's also a reflection of the people that could spot that and then make adjustments so that their business was right in that pocket. Um, so we provide financial capital. We invest in amazing founders. We call them category creating founders, founders that are not, as we say, trying to figure out how to, make a horse run faster, but they're actually trying to figure out how do we build an automobile, right? Something that's slightly different, actually quite different, I should say. And there's lots of companies I could talk to that have completely changed the game as relates to what we consider a category creating founder. And then we invest anywhere between, 500,000 to 1.5 million to get them started. And we stay with them. We provide financial capital, but then the strategic capital we provide is also coaching, it's guidance, it's mentorship. So we have an amazing coalition of folks, and many of them you met when you were at the San Francisco hip hop event
Hmm.
called that cultural renaissance with the AI capitalized. Um, these are folks that are Grammy award winning, music composers, producers. They are award winning film directors. These folks are in the sports and gaming space. They are also executives. They're C-level folks that have a background in finance or marketing. So basically, the strategic capital that we provide to our founders helps them, you know, accelerate the knowledge. So we accelerate the growth of the business financially, but then we accelerate the knowledge of these folks by pairing them with folks who are more seasoned, who've been there, done that, and are willing to help them grow the business.
Okay. Now, again, you're reading my notes because I was getting ready to ask the third part of this question was, how did you get into this?
Okay. Well, my path is very non-traditional. And I would tell you, Easy D, that a lot of people say to me, like, wow, I've always wanted to get into venture. How did you do it? And I feel very badly because my path was not traditional in any way, shape, or form. It can be very challenging to get into venture. There's a history behind that. In some ways, it's intentional. And so we can talk about that too. But I started out in on the corporate side. I did my undergraduate in communications, my MBA from the University of Texas, and always just loved business. I just wanted to go in to be a corporate executive. And so, I started out my career on that path, worked primarily for tech and entertainment companies, companies like Microsoft, where I spent, quite a bit of time. I worked for Twitter, the old Twitter, not X. So prior to that transition. I worked for Sony, which blend between tech and entertainment. And then I also worked for companies like CBS on the interactive side. I worked for the Walt Disney Company, ABC. So I had a blend between um, tech and entertainment. My background always was in people, culture, and leadership.
Mhm.
So I was always in some kind of role where I was leading through kind of manage the management of the human capital. My last two roles on the corporate side were with two publicly traded companies as a chief people officer. One company was a conversational AI company, and the other was a data cloud company.
Oh,
So, um, with this kind of very healthy set of experiences, as a C-level executive, as someone deep into the tech industry, and then someone in the entertainment industry, um, Good Trouble Ventures just kind of brought all that together and made a lot of sense. I made that transition from corporate to venture by starting investing. I just started investing in companies that I really thought were cool. Um, and how did that happen? A lot of times I was just meeting these founder CEOs. Sometimes it was on LinkedIn, sometimes it was in an event, and where there were some synergies there. Share my background. A lot of times people can look you up now in a nanosecond. And I had capital to invest, and then they were like, "Hey, can you be an advisor?" So I said, "Okay." So I did that. Um, and I started then investing in venture funds and then started advising venture funds. And so I kind of had reached this point, Easy D, with this whole corporate background where I had done everything I wanted to do. And I just was like, okay, I'm done with that, but I don't I want to do something different. And I think I've talked to a lot of people that find themselves at this point where they're like, I've had a wonderful career up to this point, whether that's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is, and I want to do something different, but I don't know what to do. I have some skills. I don't know where to apply that. And I would say for me, my process was to take a step back. I guess if there's anything I can share that I learned through how do you maneuver through that transition, it's to take a step back, really do an inventory of what you love to do and focus on that. And then, I feel like by doing that, this this whole under other industry which I never envisioned myself in emerged. By taking a step back, I took myself out of the driver's seat. Quite frankly, this was involved a lot of prayer, a lot of just saying, okay, I'm surrendering here. And I'm going to do what I love to do. So that's where the investing started. I have to also share with you, I have a son We were talking earlier about our kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's a Division 1 football player, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm going to tell you that in the first 5 minutes that I talked to you. I'm very proud of him. He made straight A's last semester. He's on the dean's list. He's academic All-American, all the things, and he's a fantastic football player. But his senior year, we were crazy on the road. And so I was taking him to recruiting trips. I was taking him to all these camps, and any parent who has Division 1, athletic child, male, female, regardless of the sport, understands what I'm talking about. That senior year happened right after I decided to step away from my kind of corporate career.
Wow.
And there was no way, Easy D, that I could have done that as a mother if I had been working my crazy corporate job. So again, it was stepping back, doing what I was really passionate of doing, not just on the professional side, but also on the personal side, because I had a son who was pursuing this goal that required a lot of my time.
Mhm.
And I never could have given that time if I had been so wrapped up in my corporate roles. And so now he's on full scholarship at a D1 university, and he has goals and dreams, and I get to support him in other ways. But you know, I really do believe that when you do take inventory of your skills and you give yourself some space and let yourself be guided in prayer and kind of take yourself out of the driver's seat, the right thing will emerge, and it may not be exactly what you anticipated. And that's how I found my way to venture.
Oh, wow. It's so this is serendipity at its finest because my I just interviewed him last week. I call any one of the kids that hang out with my kids, I either call them my kids, my stepkids, my grandchildren, whatever.
Yeah.
One who is the closest friend to my eldest son, played for the Browns and Denver. He's three-year Pro Bowl, Super Bowl winner.
Wow.
He is now an agent.
Yeah.
And here goes the serendipity part of it is, and we'll talk offline about it because his standards, not trying to make a pitch because I didn't even know we were going to have this conversation, but one of the things we talked about was having the morals and I'm not trying to get you in just to get my 5%. I want you to be the best you can be. And so he's turned down people that aren't named folks going into the NFL, but that's his credo. So we'll talk more offline about him. When we spoke last week, you went into deep detail about the whole VC landscape and the role of women and minorities in this space or the lack thereof. Why do you think it's multi-part question again? Why do you think there's a gap?
Well, I mean, historically, venture was set up to be exclusionary. I mean, if you look at the history of venture capital, which is why so many people don't understand venture capital. I mean, my mom, and she's got 2 master's degrees and all that, she's still trying to figure out what I do. And it's not unusual. Venture capital was generally, it started, back in the 60s, 70s is where you're going to start to see history emerge. With coming from communities that were sent, kids going to Ivy League schools. They, wasn't a lot of women that were in venture capital at the time. This was also families with money, right? Because you need money. This is one of the reasons why a lot of women and people of color are not in the space, because historically our families haven't had just extra millions of dollars to invest. And I'm not talking about like 50 bucks. I'm talking about multi-millions of dollars to invest. And so who had that kind of money? They were folks that were more kind of coming out of elite schools. They were primarily male, straight, more, white male. That was the picture of a venture capitalist if you look up at the history. And there was oftentimes, folks that, they would fund each other's venture funds and ventures. I'm not saying that still doesn't happen now, but I think with the advent of all the things that have democratized access to information that we have now that we didn't have then, it's just opened up um, the aperture for anybody who's interested to come in. Um, Now, I will tell you that that started with folks that are on the entertainment side or people who were, say, for example, athletes that had, the capital to invest. Like, 'cause that's the biggest barrier to entry. It's capital to invest. Um, with women coming into the workplace and learning how to save and learning how to invest, now women are coming in, right? So there's been a history of venture being for a very small percentage of folks, but I think with different people coming into the workplace, and now with access to information, you can look up just about anything you want to learn. Certainly on any kind of internet or chat GPT or whatever you're using, people are just starting to learn about this asset class. And so it's opening it up. And you've got young people also starting companies and, they're demanding the same financing as anybody else, young women, young people of color, right? Traditionally, I will tell you, women founders get less than 2% of venture capital funding.
Wow.
Um, for people of color, it's a very small percentage. And so there's created a demand to say, hey, we want to work with venture capital funds that will just evaluate our idea and not get into all the other things, that maybe it's just distracting. And so what is that? Now there's a demand for venture capital funds who would be willing to fund founders that are very diverse now. And so I think all of those dynamics have created now this landscape. It's still, don't get me wrong, Easy D, it's not crazy massive amounts of women and crazy massive amounts of folks that don't fit that description that I shared earlier in venture fund, but it is changing. And so that's something I'm very passionate about. I want whoever's interested in this space and loves business and thinks they can be helpful to a company. There shouldn't be any, barriers to entry. Anyone should be able to pursue any career that they want to pursue, regardless of their gender, what they look like, or their age.
The space you're in right now, what you do, is unique, as you discussed. And using the hip hop AI form that you did,
Yeah.
that seems like that's an out of the box type of venture. So, with how you're doing and how the your consortium is set up, do you think that just you being in this space is allowing for more out of the box thinking when it comes to coming up, knocking on your door and saying, hey, can you help a brother out?
Well, what I think is enabling innovation and creativity in the venture space and the business space just in general is the technology. It's what you can do with AI. And, you know, we talk a lot about, how to look up stuff like Chat GPT, you can look up and get information. And that's just a, to me, very small part of what AI can do. You have people that are building entire companies on capabilities that we didn't have 5 years ago. So I liken it to the advent of like ride sharing. Ride sharing started out as, a kind of interesting concept, but what made ride sharing possible, which we now know as Lyft, Uber, Wings, and others, is the advent of GPS technology that was able to locate somebody through your smartphone.
Hmm.
If you don't have that, you really can't use those ride sharing apps. That
Right.
GPS technology is critical. So that was a technology that opened the door to companies like ride sharing companies. The same thing is happening right now, where you have all different forms of AI, from conversational AI to visual, computing to um, natural language processing, machine learning. All of that is opening the door for founders to say, hey, what can I create with this technology that we didn't have before? I think that's what's driving the innovation. Had we had this technology back when, hip hop came out 50 years ago, as we were at that symposium and learned together, who knows what we may be experiencing right now. So I think it's less about the what, whether it's hip hop or whether you're talking about, ride sharing, or whether you're talking about, any particular topic. The what It's more to me about what that technology enables. Because back to this earlier example, what else did GPS location technology enable? And enabled a lot of other things. You remember the days when we used to look at, I don't know, MapQuest before you went somewhere, you would put into MapQuest and you'd print out your directions and like you'd go. And if the road was gone because they didn't update that, you were done, but now
See, let me interrupt you. You're just a kid. I remember maps. So,
Atlas and you're going,
yeah, I remember maps, going to the gas station, buying it for
yep,
a couple of
yep.
bucks. Yeah, yeah, you youngsters, you have it all
Yeah.
made. So
I
I'm
remember
sorry.
I'm
Please
sorry for
continue.
Atlas, but no, so I mean that's the, premise of your question is where's the innovation coming from? In my opinion, it's coming from two things. It's coming from the technology and it's coming from creative founders who are experimenting with how to use the technology to create completely new businesses that we didn't have before that make our lives better.
Oh, okay. Now, as I said, I moved this around. Oh, and before I forget, Sway
Hmm.
dodged me out of my $20. See, I went to see him and I went to go collect my 20. He's gone.
I'm gonna text him right now.
Yeah. Oh, believe me. Oh, not that right now. After this.
Sway.
But okay, so at your event, um, as a sponsor, now I'm talking about the business side of it
Yeah.
now, this specific event, multi-part. How do you think you went? How do you think it went? Um, what could you have done better?
Mm.
And did you accomplish your goals?
I love this question. So the event that you're referencing, for your listeners who may not be aware, it's an event that Good Trouble Ventures co-sponsored with a 501(c)(3 called SF Hip Hop. And the whole premise of the event was to bring together a set of speakers and panels to explore the intersection of AI and music through the lens of hip hop. And I was on the planning team, so I know a lot of behind the scenes. And as anybody that's ever done a production knows, it can be messy behind the scenes, and then the production may look very different, which I think is probably for all events. But I will tell you that I go to a lot of events and have been for many years. Sometimes I'm usually a speaker, or I'm doing some sponsorship or doing something to put on the event. This is one of the best events I've gone to. And I will say that maybe because I know a little bit of the messiness behind the scenes of how well everything just came together, I thought the speakers were outstanding. The topics were broad and very interesting. And having the star power of a Sway and of Rakim would just made it sparkle. I would also say that the thing that fascinated me most was this conversation that we had to parallel hip hop that was happening in the Bay Area at the time when it was becoming, popular, um, not just in this country, but around the world. But the whole rise of hip hop was happening. Of course, started out in, New York and places like that, but there was a huge movement of hip hop artists here in the Bay Area. And so we were exploring what happened there at the same time, what was happening in Silicon Valley, exactly the same thing, an advent of something, but that was it was a digital technology based. And so to explore how Silicon Valley became Silicon Valley, and I'm from the Bay Area, I watched Silicon Valley become what it is today. When I moved to the Bay Area in the 70s, you could literally commute from the North Bay to San Jose, you know, in 45 minutes an hour. You can't do that anymore. So to explore the rise of hip hop in the Bay Area in parallel with the rise of digital technology was fascinating to me because they were almost identical, very similar. But the difference was who came out with deeper pockets, who, I mean, we all benefited, right?
Mhm.
Um, Hip hop is an art form that influenced, culture, dress, the way we talk, slang words. And it wasn't just in the US, as I said earlier, it was globally. The impact of hip hop was phenomenal, phenomenal. And the impact of Silicon Valley, phenomenal, right? This is a place where, companies like Google were born and Facebook and many others, phenomenal. And yet the differences in terms of how those businesses benefited the people who started them was starkly different. And to explore those two industries here in the Bay Area in parallel and to make those comparisons and see what was the same, what was different, and then the outcome, that was a fascinating topic to me, and one that I think we should continue to explore. So that was a takeaway that I had. What could have gone better? I just wish more people had been there. I think by the end of it, we had a full house. Maybe we do it again. We have a bigger venue. But I think if we had advertised it earlier, broader, I just would have liked for more people to have experienced it, and we did not record it. Um, so every single panel was fascinating. We explored ethics in AI. I love Wallonia Stature, BBL Drizzy. He created a commercial for Popeyes that was crazy, funny, and creative using AI. I don't know if you can share it later with your viewers, but you got to see it. I mean, it's his brainchild, right? But his whole premise was what we as the average person can do with AI is phenomenal. And to see how he created that, um, hear him talk about it and then see how he created it was the actual output was so interesting. What I love to see in events is that it elevates our education, it elevates our thinking, and it brought the community together. You know, people may not have known the how deeply hip hop was ingrained and happening in the Bay Area. And just to hear those earlier stories, of Sway talking about like, driving to Santa Cruz to meet with the record executive without like any kind of appointment. Just the raw passion of what people did during that time it was interesting to explore in this region.
Met up with you after the tall, kind of chunky gentleman who worked at Lucas. He
Mm,
asked one of the questions, or actually it was more of a statement of,
okay.
he was mentioning AI and one of the what he perceived as negative,
Mhm.
that possible inability to just not kick it, with fellow producers, fellow creatives, doing what would it be akin
Collaboration.
to jam session type
Yeah,
of.
collaborations. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't even know why I went down that rabbit hole, but that's the great thing about this show. Two people talking, sometimes you go down rabbit holes.
Well, I don't know. I think it's relevant. I mean, we were exploring so many things around AI and hip hop and where, those two things converged and it could have been country, it could have been, R&B, it could have been, anything. What made it unique though, and then this is why I'm so glad that SF Hip Hop, really this was their brainchild. The whole concept. They came to us and said, "Hey, we want to do something like this." And then we worked together to create the programming. So they came up with it, but it was to also educate people like hip hop has a history here in the Bay Area. It's a rich history. And to explore that in parallel with the rise of what we know as, digital technology in Silicon Valley is a fascinating conversation. And Davey D, he blew my mind. I mean, he is a professor, right? at I think San Francisco State. But he was a part of that as a young person, personally, like, a part of the hip hop scene. And to hear him pull it together, I was just like, it was intellectual candy for me. Just really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, Davey and I go back. We're talking about now, we were both in the same DJ pool, the pros DJ pool. That's
Okay.
how I got to meet a lot of the people that I spoke about offline and now. And you're right, Davey. And Mr. Cook, you still suck at dominoes, and we'll talk about that other. But no, it was overall, as I said, I walked in. I'll be honest with you, two girls talking right now. I went to go get my money from Sway. That's what started that whole thing. But I'm glad I went because it was so fascinating. And
Yeah.
now I'm going to go into the last question. What advice would you give to the 20-year-old Monica Poole?
Oh my gosh. The 20-year-old. Let's see. I would have been in college then and very like, yeah, 20-year-old. I mean, I had some stuff together, but I just did not have it together in a lot of ways too. At 20, I actually feel like my son has it more together than I did at that age. But maybe a couple of things I'd say is the power of relationship is cannot be overstated. Having real authentic relationships with people, you just never know when you're going to run into people and see people again. I mean, even if we go back to that SF hip hop, some of those folks that came into the room hadn't seen each other in 20 years, right? And there was hugs, there was like joy. That is life. The power of relationship is life. And people say, oh, business relationship, personal relationship. I don't think there's a difference.
Mhm.
Relationships are relationships. And I know for me on the business side, when I'm working on something, even if I think about us planning to do this event, I'm in my head, see your face. Easy D is depending on me to show up to do this for his show. And you can say, "Oh, that's just business being dependable." No, it's I want to be a good partner to Easy D, right? And I know you want to be a good partner to me and others. I could see that at how you engage at the SF hip hop. So relationships is something I would probably emphasize as being genuine relationships and really important in business, but in life. So value that and nurture those. Um, the other thing I may say is everything has its time because I was always someone that was ready to go. Let's go. Let's go. I think I shared with you. I think I told you earlier, like if my mom, I have an older brother, he's an engineer and he's very careful, he's cautious. He was always like super duper duper smart, just it came easy to him. He didn't have to study. Very responsible and dependable. My mom said if she had had me first, she wouldn't have had any more kids. And it's just because my personality is just I'm more risk prone. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Sounds good. I don't want to take too much time. I'm gonna be now I'm older, right? So I have pattern matched enough to say, oh, that's probably not gonna work. But when I was younger, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, I was, I don't think I was reckless, but I was definitely more willing to risk things than my brother. And as a mom, with a daughter, that didn't bode well. I have a lot of other stories. We'll need more another link to talk about that. Um,
That'll be the after hour show.
oh, maybe after hours, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So,
Oh,
I would say, look, I was always ready to go and with a strong personality and a sense of like, I want to, like, let's go take the hill. Sometimes things didn't go the way that I wanted them to go or envisioned them to go. And that's because it wasn't the right time. And maybe that person wasn't the right person to do it with. And so if you feel like you're pushing a boulder up the hill to either work with someone or do something, it's good to step back and say, it is okay. It may not be the right time because, and we have this saying that we talk about in our venture fund among our partners, but when it starts, it's the right time, and when it ends, it's the right time. And we can have peace with that and not feel like we have to make it happen. We don't have to do that. I do believe that God has a way of making all things work together for good. And that has been true in my life. And so if I just trust in that, value investing in those good, authentic relationships, and just know that when the time is right, it will begin. That's a good life, man.
Oh, yeah, my, well, two things I always say. One, in business, if you can't change the game, change the paradigm. But the other is everything happens when it's supposed to. And that, that's got you where you are today, where your children are, where your business is, where your passion is. Who could ask for anything more, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has definitely been true in my own life. I mean, if I think about the venture fund, we're super excited that we've now raised our $50 million. I don't think I shared that with you, but we
No.
venture fund this is our first fund, raising $50 million for our first fund, and we've done that, which is
Wow.
we're very proud of. We started fundraising in February, and so it's a tough market to raise money right now.
Mhm.
And we have found about, 8 to 9 fantastic founders that we want to invest in. And I always say for us, investing is not just, okay, we're just going to give you some money. It's really giving founders' dreams wings because a lot of people who start companies, they put their heart and soul into starting these companies. And by getting infusion of capital, it just gives them wings. They can focus on the things that really scale their business. So I'm super excited about that. And, people might say, wow, that was really fast. But you know what? When it starts, it's the right time. And
It's
it's
right
time
there.
for us to deploy capital. We have people depending on us and we learn a lot from our founders as well. And we have a great partnership. We have partners across our team that are just experts in their field. And so, yeah, it's a great way to kick off the fall. And we always think of the post Labor Day as the beginning of fall. And it's a great time to be leaning into, the second half of the year.
Yeah. Wow. Well, before I do my close, is there anything you would like? Oh, hold on. That almost came out as a question. If you would like to say anything regarding your business, contact information, whatever you'd like to do, please feel free.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. As I shared, we are now deploying capital to amazing founders, and we are looking for additional founders who may have these category creating businesses in the space of tech and entertainment. And so for founders who are looking for capital, we'd love to talk to you. That's, within our thesis. You can find me on LinkedIn, Monica Poole Knox. I think if you type that in, I show up. I don't think there's any other Monica Poole Knoxes right now. Or you can email us at hello at good trouble, all one word, no spaces, .vc.
Hello.
That should not be hard to remember. Hello.
That should not be hard to remember.
And just reference that you heard the show and we'll be it'll get to me with a reference so it's not random. We'll definitely prioritize anything we see coming from the show. And
Oh, wow. Thank you. Wow. Thank you for that.
people
I really do appreciate that. We still have a couple of seconds. This was the third part of the question. I forgot what part of it was. And again, my OCD. It had to do with, I'm sure you have more people who come than money you have to offer. So, how do you determine who you choose?
oh man, that's a whole nother show as well. But I'll make it quick. Every venture fund has their own criteria around what they like to see in founders. And we are very similar to that. I will tell you the first thing we look for in our founders is, well, obviously the first thing we look for is the business within our thesis, because we get pitched movie scripts and we get pitched all kinds of stuff. And we're like, actually it's tech enabled. So, that's the first thing.
Mhm.
If we do find a tech enabled entertainment company startup, there's a few things we look for. And if we're in the due diligence process with the founder and they've got to that point, we're looking for character. We have a whole set of values that we look for in our founders. As I shared earlier, finding great companies is about finding great founders. And so we want to see things like, is this founder ambitious? It's a term we use at Good Trouble Ventures. It means, are they both humble, like meaning they can learn and pivot with experiences and new information, and ambitious? Are they ready to take the hill? We're looking for founders that want to change the world. If someone's just like, oh, I can, build a business for my family, and like, no, we want you to have big goals, big dreams. So ambitious is something we look for, along with a number of other traits. We also, as I shared earlier, we look for founders that are thinking about how to create something that doesn't exist before. Think about, I'll go back to ride sharing, Uber or Lyft. They created a whole new category of transportation that didn't exist before. If you wanted to go from point A to point B, you caught a cab, or you found a van service or something like that. Airbnb is another great example we talk about, right? Is they created a whole new category. And sometimes the ideas sound crazy at first. That's how you know you're onto something. And of course, we looked at the financials. We look at the team, the leadership team, the capabilities. We like to see founders that actually come from the creative space that they're impacting. If you have a music company and you're looking at innovating and technology in music, but you don't know anything about music, you've never played an instrument, you've never worked in music, then that's a red flag for us. We love to see founders that come out of the creative spaces that they're driving to impact. So those are a few of the things.
Okay, I'm glad I was able to get that question in there, because I am sure a lot. Hey, this is going to reach a million plus people, and so I'm sure a couple of three of them are going to say, "Hey, I got this idea. How about making this sausage, put it in a piece of bread, throw some, I think they call it mustard on it. It's something that's already."
Hot dog.
Yeah, it's a hot dog. Hey, you're not inventing anything new. So, oh
Yeah.
boy.
You know what? Easy D, I should have shared one other thing we're looking for is partnerships. We're big on partnerships and we do a lot
Okay.
of events.
Mhm.
So if people want to partner and do some collaborations on different events that may happen either in LA or San Francisco, I think New York is another, is another place that does a lot of events in our space, Atlanta and Miami. We love considering partnerships with folks and doing activations.
And that is going through hello
Hello.
and please repeat it. I want to make sure. Yeah.
Hello.
Mhm.
Hello at goodtrouble.vc, or you can reach out, just DM me directly on LinkedIn, Monica Poole Knox.
Okay, now for those again, now I'm cheap. I don't pay for LinkedIn. I get the free version. So you're probably third or fourth in LinkedIn now. If you're not shaking hands directly, they ain't finding you. So are you an easy person to find?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm pretty easy to find. We'll be doing some stuff at SF Tech Week coming up in October.
Okay.
We have an event we're doing an activation with a large tech company at an LA Tech Week. Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty easy to find. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm generally out and about doing a lot of things here locally.
Oh,
Travel too, but yeah, I don't think I'm hard to find.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to put that to the test after I get off. I'm going to see
Okay.
if I can find you on LinkedIn, and then I'll do a little after. It's true, you can find her, or she's hiding. She's hiding, doggone it. I'm deleting the last 5 minutes. So,
Hey, we should bet $20 on that so I can collect my 20.
oh, hey, God, okay, what's the bet?
I'm just saying, I know you're gonna follow up. I know you're gonna follow up on the bet.
I, when you throw money on the table, homegirl, why do you think Sway's dodging me? It's like, what? Hey, man, okay, you're in New York. They have Venmo, but I'm sorry. I can't. Okay, Sway, be that way. Or we're on Zoom and it'd be, dude, you're not frozen. I see you breathe. Come on now.
That's an interesting trick. I'll
Yeah.
have to think of that next time I'm trying to get off a call
Oh,
frozen.
you've never done that? Oh
No,
wow. Oh
no.
wow. Oh no, it's great. It
You got to hold pretty still though, I guess,
oh
right?
god, yeah. And then you do real fast, so it makes it seem like you're
A little glitch.
what's going on
Look,
here?
hey, look, I do know the trick on the hello, hello. Oh, think I lost you. Oh, sorry, bad connection.
Yeah. Hello, hello. It my 2-year-old, she knows that trick. Hello.
She knows that trick.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna have to go back to our authentic connections and authentic relationships thing. We can't be doing that.
Oh boy, let me tell you. Oh yeah, look, like I said, the after hour show, we'll talk more about, you know, real stuff. But anyway, before my little 40-minute thing comes up, I want to thank you. I told you I was going to learn more than I came in, and I've learned so much that uh, I, I may be selfish and not share this because I don't want anyone else to know what I know now, but more than likely I'll share. So I want to thank you, Monica. I want to thank you for Good Trouble Ventures. It is eye-opening, and I hope everyone takes advantage of it because you might get 10% off your next purchase. If you use 5 easy questions.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that you came up, introduced yourself. There was a lot of people at that event, so I appreciate you doing that. And it's so great that, we were able to connect after that event and carve out this time. So thank you for having me.
No problem. We got to stay in touch, really. Oh, I'm going to try and see you in October. We'll talk. Oh, no, you could tell us because you said it's October. You're doing something in the city, unless, of course, it's a private function. I don't know. You,
Yeah, we haven't announced it yet, but we'll be
oh,
likely doing something early in the week for I think a female founder event is coming up and some other things. So yeah, we'll make sure it'll get it once it gets out there, it'll get out there and people can find it if they're looking for it.
okay. Well, send me whatever information you want to
I will.
send, and I will. I'll promote the heck out of it because we need. You are a true success story and you are trying to help others reach their successes. So anything I can do to help out, I'm 10 digits away.
I so appreciate that. I love that saying, rising tide rises all boats.
Yeah, it does.
We're to help and support each other.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And don't even get me started crabs in a bucket because
That's the
that,
opposite
that
side of that conversation.
yeah, I'm going to delete that part because some people will understand it, but
Yeah,
not most.
I
So,
know.
this has been Dan Easy Dorman. 5 easy questions. Peace.
They used to